Okay, we're going to be changing the fuel filters in our 24 6.7 liter Cummins turbo diesel today. We've gone with Mopar in the past. Thought we'd give Doc's diesel a try, see how those work out. The price difference between the filters is roughly $30, Mopar being on the higher side. But what we're basically going to find here is that bottom filter is probably going to be super dirty, and the top one is going to look brand new. Several things you need to do this is a 28mm socket, socket wrench, and extension, Phillips head screwdriver, and an 8mm socket. And of course also something to catch the diesel fuel in. Some people use a tube to help route that down to where we're at, but it's not very windy today, so we're just going to put the pan under there. Without further ado, let's get into it. Alright, this is the part where I was saying if you're going to use a tube, it was good to use it, which here, them placing it right above the drive shaft makes it, you know, almost guaranteed that you're going to make a mess. So that's what the tube is useful for. This is what your 8mm here is to stick on this side to start draining it out. They also have a little bit of a thumb screw here. You can open that valve, and then what you do is you just take your 28mm here. Well, there went the tube. Get that back on there. But you're gonna just crack it open so it gets a little bit air to it, and then you can let it drain out some of that diesel fuel so you're not making it big of a mess. So and just let that drain out, and when it stops dripping, try to loosen up that a little bit more. I think she's about done dripping, so we're gonna go ahead and close that off and get this tube out of the way so I can really get some leverage on this and take it out. Start dripping a little bit more, of course. Guess I had a little more it wanted to donate to us. Okay. I think we got her loose enough we can take her out by hand. And there she is. Reposition a little bit here. Alright, so as you can see, it's kind of dirty. So I'm just going to go ahead and drain out as much of the daggum fuel as possible. Yeah, just pops off of there. I don't think there's any sediment or anything really in there, so the first thing you want to do is just take this O-ring off that's on there. I want to make sure I grab the right one. Of course I didn't. Un momento, por favor, and replace it with your new O-ring. And then get her right down into that last little Nice little groove. And then take your new filter and it just pops right in. So that's how it should look like. Now the top part you can see when you look up into the casing. I don't know if I can get you positioned up in there or not, but you can see where the groove runs. So you're going to want to position this where it's basically parallel with the truck, and then you should feel another little snap, or hear another little snap when you get it up there. If I can get the tripod to help me out here. But opposite form, stick it up there with your groove in line, but you should be able to feel it. And then tighten her back up. And I believe that's it. And make sure your pitcock valve or whatever is closed. So here we are back up top next to your brake fluid reservoir, and down underneath there's another filter. That's your top part filter, and this is the part where you need the screwdriver. You can reach your hand down there and maybe turn that little yellow valve a quarter turn, but it's much easier to get a screwdriver and place that down in there and turn that valve, and then that's going to drain that filter housing right there. And you can let it drain a little bit. That one, since it actually screws off from the top, you won't have to drain as much, but it you know, helps if you drain it a little bit. And then this is where you need your 28mm again, with swivel socket and extensions. Makes it a little bit easier. You know, you can climb up on top of your engine here and get down in there, but it's not as comfortable on the knees doing it that way. Now, there's a lot of mechanics channels that make all this seem nice, easy, and simple, but I prefer to show you the true struggle bus that most DIYers end up going through to do this stuff themselves. But once you loosen that up, then you can reach down in there and screw that top by hand. And then it's the same thing. You can reach down there and pull that filter out. Which, that one's not bad. Not as clean as I was expecting it to look, but I did run this one till it told me to actually change it. so it's a little bit dirty. And it's the same as that other filter housing. There's an O-ring on there you want to remove. And then you want to replace it with your new O-ring. Which I'll have right here. And you place that one on there, and down on that little bottom groove, you grab your brand new filter and place that down in there, which, if you notice, it's a little oblong, and on the top of that there, it's oblong. If you match up those shapes, I bet you pops in there a little bit easier. And you stick her on down in there. Oh, and a note with that O-ring, it probably won't matter as much as messy as this is and how much diesel fuel's going around, but make sure that you do wetten that with a little bit of diesel fuel, so that and that's both sides, so that you don't end up tearing that O-ring. And you plop the top back on there and tighten her down. Which I'm going to try to see if I can't just tighten this without using any extensions and actually fit this wrench down in there. Oh, help if I was doing the right way. Righty tighty, lefty loosey. Basically, you just go and until it stops. There you are. You'll take your screwdriver and make sure to close that drain back up, and then we'll show you how to reprime your system. Start it up and check for leaks. Alright, so what you want to do is basically just get in and hit the accessory on. This window here is warm. And then shut her off, and do that about 3 times. This isn't like a Ford where you can actually kind of hear your pump moving or pumping, but after doing that 3 or 4 times, then you want to go ahead and start it up. And at this point, this is when I'd get out and check to make sure that none of those filters or filter housings are leaking. And then of course the filter life, you put her on the thing and press the OK as it says, and it asks you if you want to confirm to reset that. Click yes. And there you have it. That's how you change the fuel filters on a 24 Ram 6.7 liter turbo diesel Cummins engine. So as I said, that's how you change the fuel filters on this Cummins engine. Had the bottom one here and the top as well. But if you like what you saw and you like content similar to that, make sure that you like and subscribe, and maybe leave a comment of what you'd like to see in the future. But other than that, thank you. Bye bye now.